Welcome, everyone. It is Tuesday, July 11th, 8 a.m. You are in fact in the right spot. This is the Public Health and Safety Committee meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at 8 o'clock. I see Angela and Peter and myself are present. Item number 3 is the approval of minutes from our Public Health and Safety Committee meeting on June 13, 2023. If there are no comments or edits, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Angela. That's our first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Peter. Any further discussion? Seeing zero facial expressions, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Item number 4, we have Tumwater Fire Department Peer Support Program. We have Brian and Ryan. What are we doing? What are we talking about this morning?
I'll start off. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And this was an item that we added to the agenda. We've had a few questions about from a variety of people about what we do, at least here in the fire department, for supporting our employees' behavioral health. And in my career here, we've gone through different versions of support, whether it's critical incident stress debriefing and the use of chaplains, local psychologists. So we've always had some degree of support. But over the last couple of years in particular, there's been a very concerted effort in the county to develop a peer support program. Most departments in the county are participating in this and supporting this effort to help us support our employees. And this, obviously is a very important topic, for the wellness of our employees, but also for the city in general, in that post-traumatic stress is considered a presumptive illness under our workers' compensation statute as well. So we want to make sure we're providing the best support we can to our employees for their physical and mental well-being. So with that said, here at Tumwater Fire, Ryan Winter, paramedic lieutenant, is the lead for our peer support group. And I'm going to do the best I can here to share my slides. We'll see what happens here. And go to... Is that actually in the correct mode?
It is not, but you're one step closer. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's just a little bit of a lag there. So I'm going to turn this presentation over to Ryan, and I'm going to try to advance the slides here. There we go. Ryan's going to kick us off.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. So I kind of hold two positions. One is our peer support team lead for Tumwater, and then there's also a consortium of all the departments in the county that have their own peer support teams, and I'll get back to the consortium in a moment, but after we go over kind of this slide here. So why peer support is firefighters helping firefighters, and there's a lot of aspects to why the peer support system specifically works. We spend a lot of time together, so you have the ability to kind of monitor how everybody's doing. You notice when somebody's off, just knowing their personality as well as we do. When it comes to the actual peer support work itself, we have similar experiences, which allows relatability. Maybe we weren't on the specific call or incident, but we have a general understanding so we can be on the same page when we're speaking about these things. The folks that are on the peer support team all are required to have 24 hours of training and how to do the peer support work. And it's a really great training program. There is continuing education. We do lunches. There's different seminars you can attend provided by the IFF. As well as peer support gains traction. There's been some conferences and stuff. There's one in November that we're looking at currently. And then the county system allows for a larger pool of peers. We had some of you may have been familiar with the 5 fatality fire that was on Waldrick earlier this year. I responded to that, but the whole county responded to the incident, and the way that the consortium works, we had peers from almost every department in the county also on that incident. So it's a large pool of people. Every coordinator was able to speak with each other and what crews were there, and then make sure that a peer was checking in on the crews that were working as they returned to their station, do their debrief and their working on the peer support side. So that's kind of on the boots on the ground side of things. On the other side of that, we also, to me, prevention is worth a lot more than suppression in a lot of things. It's kind of easy for us to relate to that. But we gather pools of culturally competent therapists. So I'm also on our therapy clinician screening team. So therapists come to us regularly. We make sure that they're trained in PTSD, and some have focuses in first responders. That way we're not just sending our members out to therapists that aren't going to fully be able to understand or offer them the help that they need. Encouraging healthy habits and coping mechanisms. I guess the way that I look at it, or was kind of taught, is everybody has a cup or a bucket or a thimble, and you can have stresses from life that kind of fill that up, but things that happen at work can cause that to overflow. And healthy habits and coping mechanisms are kind of what you got to do to keep that water from overflowing whatever vessel you happen to be given. And so, diet, sleep, and exercise is really the foundation of that. And that's things that we're working on, putting into our system to make sure that we don't get to the point where somebody, goes into crisis to begin with. We have had a few members that have had to seek treatment, and part of the peer support team on the back end is the balance program, and that helps with the families that are here that need to be able to still go through life normally, getting kids to school. If they're not in school yet, they play dates and things like that, making sure that they have food and their basic needs are met. And that program has been really successful, and kind of tying it back to the consortium. The balance program is run by Lee Brooks from Lacey, Chief Brooks's wife. And she's, that's kind of her deal, but it's been very successful. And then globally, even on a bigger picture, is just reducing barriers to mental health and changing the culture to accept that mental health is important, and it's not a taboo word. It's something that we need to talk about. And I guess if you speak to it, it's okay to know that other people around you are struggling, and we can all pick each other up and move forward. It doesn't have to be a thing where it seems at some point in time it was just drink or do whatever unhealthy coping mechanisms were necessary to try to get through it and pretend like you were fine, versus just speaking about it, kind of getting in your Brene Brown sorrow hole down with somebody else, and working through it and showing some empathy and making sure that everybody's doing okay, and then we can climb out of this together. So that's kind of the global peer support system and how it works. And then the next slides are kind of just an overview of what we're doing here with our policy and implementing our peer support team. So, we can offer support both to employees, volunteers, or family members. If we have a website for the consortium with all of our team members on it. So if a family member is noticing that their spouse is not doing well, or anybody really, they can reach out to us, or anybody on the team, we can check in. And it doesn't just have to be PTSD stuff. People can have, financial issues that they're going through, whatever is happening at home. Any number of things can kind of overwhelm you a little bit. We're not necessarily counselors, but we're just there to lean on and get through it together. And then the last part there that's really important is it is confidential. There is a WAC or RCW. I know it's listed in the policy. No different than a therapist. We can't share the information that's shared with us. It's all, it's all protected conversations. As long as they're not a threat to themselves or others or breaking any laws. And obviously we have to report that. It's mandatory, but they can have a confidential resource within the agency and membership that they can speak to if they need it.
Let's go ahead and just pause for a second for, we've got a number of slides here and we don't expect to read every one of them to you. We'll touch on all of them, but maybe we'll stop for just a minute for any questions that you might have at this point.
Angela, Peter, do you have anything?
Yes,
Go ahead,
I have a
Angela.
question. I have a question. So can you walk me through, we have a firefighter or paramedic, has suicidal ideations, and we find out that there's a substance abuse problem. So talk me through how it works.
It starts with a referral or them reaching out to us specifically. So either, another member tells us they need some help based on conversations with them, or they reach out to us specifically. We'll get a hold of them and try to meet with them. If the suicidal part is something that they relate to us, we actually have a flow sheet based on what we're going to do with them next. And really it comes down to if they have a plan. If they have a plan, it means that it's pretty serious and significant. It's not just ideations, but something they plan to follow through with. And they're going to go to inpatient treatment as immediately as possible. If they admit that they have a plan, then they are a candidate for essentially involuntary commitment. And so they could end up at St. Pete's, but that's ideally not what we want to do since we go there regularly. But there's been an agency, a neighboring agency that's dealt with this recently. So they were able to find a bed for them and drive that member up to inpatient. If they don't have a plan, and this is ideations and substance abuse problems, then there's a number of treatment clinics. The IFF has a center of excellence that does substance abuse and PTSD mental health therapy. There's Deer Hollow in Utah, and there's another one down in California. And those are all roughly 45-day treatment centers. And we can get our members there as well. So that's kind of how the process works.
Okay. Okay, not to cut you off. But is because I know that soldiers, we don't like psychological help because it comes with a lot of stigma. They're going to take away our weapons and we're going to have to go to mental health. So are there any negative repercussions for the firefighter or paramedic if they do decide to, say, I have a problem? Is it going to be documented somewhere? Are they going to be stigmatized, or are they really free to come out to say, I need help, and they're going to get that help that they need?
I'll touch on that, Councilmember Jefferson. We fully support our members to go to these programs, and basically we'll just receive a note saying that they're under a doctor's care. It won't be specific to any reason, and that's really all. That's all we need. They will use their leave time to take care of their physical and mental well-being until they're ready to come back to work. And then we would receive a letter from their physician who's directing their care, saying that they're fit to come back to work at that point. So that's the way we handle those situations, and it's confidential. If the employee wants to say something, they can. Otherwise, it's a confidential process, and we handle it that way.
And to speak on the stigma side of things, I think that's what peer support is trying to break. I think there's more encouragement. I haven't done this job forever, but I know when I was early in my career and a volunteer, speaking about mental health was not something you did. You did go back to the station and say, man, that one messed with me and I didn't like it. I would say Tumwater has a pretty positive culture, encouraging people to go get a therapist, whether they think they need it or not, just so that if something bothers them, they can make a phone call and get an appointment quickly is something that, we encourage pretty readily around here. So there's not really a lot of stigma or binding of keeping folks from seeking the help they need, or, what's your problem kind of deal. It's more like, you look like you're off, is everything okay? And I feel that, our fire department is doing a pretty good job of breaking that stigma, and we just want to keep that going. And Peer Support, that's kind of one of our goals, is to move forward with not having any of those barriers, reducing as many as possible.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Peter, did you have anything before Chief and Ryan keep going? You're staying on mute, so I'm taking that as a no.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
So here's kind of areas of support for boots on the ground kind of stuff. The suicide call outs down there. Hopefully it's not something we have to do, but we do have a plan in place for if it does come up, and then, individual support for all sorts of things. On-scene support is something we try not to do, just because scenes can be so dynamic, and dealing with stuff on scene is just not ideal. So we usually try to move our stuff away from the scene where people can kind of meet their basic needs and get comfortable before we start, diving into the incident and how they're feeling. And then critical incident management is big scene stuff. So on-scene emergencies, we have got to employ this a few times. And again, we don't do things on scene, but that's where the whole system starts. I'll get a phone call as the lead that we have a call that meets certain criteria. We're going to get a couple providers together from the Peer Support team. We'll be here setting everything up. And once the crews get back and fed and showered, then we'll meet with them here and let them talk it out and kind of get things off their chest and move forward if need be. So triggers, stresses, response to an event, not the actual event. I feel like that's pretty straightforward. Just move through. Some of this is from our policy, so it's kind of stuff that the Peer Support team and the officers need to look at specifically, just to make sure that we're all keeping these things in mind. So yeah, work-related triggers, you can imagine what some of those are. More things. So this is our contacting procedures specifically, so members can reach out to us directly. On scene, we can respond, and then the BC is just keeping his eye on calls. We do have a couple substations, both Medic 14 and Engine T2, and we just want to be cognizant of those crews as well, since, sometimes if you're in it, it's hard to see the whole picture. So the battalion chief will just be keeping an eye on what their crews are doing. If Medic 14 goes on a rough call down south, or maybe Tumwater runs T2, runs a mutual aid call with Olympia, just what they were doing, and if maybe Peer Support needs to get in contact with them. This is a confidentiality piece. There's your RCWs 560-060, and that just speaks to the fact that we can't just go around blabbering to the station, what old Johnny's going through. It's just between us and them. And then there's what it doesn't apply to. So threats themselves or others, children, elderly, and then criminal conduct. So we like to have 2 Peer Support members when we do things like diffusing, just because it can be a lot to deal with by yourself. And if you get stuck, you got a partner that can kind of help keep the conversation moving. We're pretty open door as far as who wants to join the peer support team for the most part. We were trying to shoot for 2 a shift right now, and we're doing a pretty decent job. I think we have 7 or 8 members total. And across all shifts and different folks that just have a passion for it. Yeah, and then if things happen, we'll check into a diffusing, or we'll just give them a phone call just to follow up, make sure they're doing okay afterwards. That's kind of wrap on the whole thing. Any questions specifically?
Angela has unmuted first.
Yes. What do you do for former or retired firefighters? Because when they retire, you know, they have issues also. So do you have any specific programs in place?
We don't have anything specific, I guess. Although I will say, you know, if again, it's all either personal reach out or referrals. And we'll check in on certain retired folks if we're told that maybe they're going through a rough time or struggling to find a community once, you know, they kind of get off the ship and it's left them behind. So unfortunately, that's kind of the way that the system works. So I wouldn't say that we specifically have, you know, a retired member that's on the peer support team or anything like that, but you know, we're available to all members, whether they're current or former. So I can't speak to it much more than that, other than we're here if they need us.
I'll just add a couple comments. That's an area that we're trying to do better. In fact, in August, we're gonna have a retiree event here at the station just to bring everybody back in, and we're gonna try to connect more with our retirees. You know, it's really you know, for a number of years, we didn't have a lot of turnover. We didn't have a lot of retirees, but in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had an increasing number. And we realize that those are folks we need to keep in touch with, and we bring them back for events here. And but we're gonna do better on that. And I think actually the day of the Brew Fest in August, we're gonna have an event here for them before the Brew Fest.
Okay, excellent. That's good for the younger members to know, you know, especially when they retire, what it's like out there. So good for that. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Angela. Peter, anything burning a hole on your piece of paper that you must know right now?
No, I'm glad to hear that they have a retirement activities plan. That is very, very, very good to know.
Yeah, agreed. Thanks, Peter. Some of the things I was thinking about as you were both presenting is, you know, we have to go back to the full council and present, right? So with what you presented this morning, what would be one highlight that you would like us to share with the rest of council? And then in addition, what would you like to see? Like, not what's missing, but what would you like? Or do you need more support with something else regarding the city that you would like to see?
I guess one thing to share is that since we've kind of fired the program up probably at the start of this year, we've been pretty active as a team, and the response that we've gotten back has been very positive, significantly positive. Everybody's really appreciative just to know, you know, whether they feel that we actually helped them through the incident or not, just knowing that we're there. And speaking to them, and there's somebody there that they know is an advocate and cares about them. Everybody has been very appreciative, and they'll come back and follow up with us. So that part has been great. As the coordinator, like financial support is always super helpful. We got an app that's going to be rolling out. I didn't touch on it yet because it's not fully part of our system. But there is a cost associated with that. You know, we'd love to, knowledge is power to some extent, and the more training that the team is able to participate in, the better for both us as peer support providers and the membership that will get to help out. So hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn for chief here, but, Lacey and Olympia both have clinicians that they have in-house that are available to the membership as well as the peer support team. And I think someday the consortium as a whole would like to find a way to have a clinician that belong to the team, both for the peer supporters to lean on if they have questions. And then the membership at large from the county be able to reach out to on short notice, for large events similar to, the Waldrick fire that we had. So
I'll just add, there certainly is, a cost to doing some of this, whether it's bringing folks in on overtime or sending them to training or helping pay for the app. And so far we've accommodated that within our existing budget, and we'll do the best we can with that. Certainly in the future, there could be
like I have to call and
ask
talk
as far as that.
about that, or is it automatically going to get changed with this call as well?
Laura, could you mute Lisa?
Yeah, the address for app, I guess.
Thank you.
There we go.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, I would just say, we've been able to, basically absorb some of these costs in our existing budget. In the next biennium, we may have a couple of specific asks with regards to this program, but we just feel it's very important. Clearly we want healthy, well members, but also it does impact us when somebody is away and unable to work. It affects everybody else because they have to cover those shifts as well. So this is just an investment in our personnel that we see is extremely important.
Right. I know. Thank you, Chief and Ryan. I know that this is voluntary and confidential. Is there an opportunity as this continues to track the reduced leave time, or what you talked about, that impact if someone can't work? Is there a way to circle back, check in to see more of our staff are able to maintain their healthier? I mean, not trying to go back to the, oh, go ahead.
As I say, I think the short answer is yes, we'll work on that. I know Lacey Fire District 3, they have a dedicated health and safety chief there who is able to really help run this program in the county. And that's some of the things that they're attempting to quantify in Lacey, and we'll certainly attempt to do the same thing.
Thank you. Well, this is great. Not to take away from you, but Commander Mason, does police have anything similar to what fire is doing?
We align in many aspects. We have peer support. We have a very strong chaplain program and have for quite a while. We do critical incident debriefs. We've instituted a wellness program. We've just got up and running with an app that was sponsored by WASPIC and the state. So I guess, one of the things that I just want to reiterate is how much this has changed from the time I started to now. When I first started, it was just like, suck it up, go to the next call. And what we really are recognizing is the impacts of what we do, the trauma of what our officers go to and experience. And one of the differences between police and fire is how we operate. Fire goes everywhere in teams. Everything they do is team-based. Operationally, it's challenging because it takes more resources, but I think functionally, it's a very healthy way to operate. Police don't operate that way. Our officers go out into the field individually. They work in a team, but they don't have someone beside them all the time to share these experiences with. And then also, like Councilmember Jefferson kind of alluded to, it's not, in some ways we parallel the military in some aspects, but I was at a training about a month or two ago, and one of the speakers said, it's not normal for someone to go to work and put on a bulletproof vest and a gun. It's normalized within the profession, obviously, but within our society, within our people. It's not normal to do that. And so how do we work through that? And, one of the things that we've really struggled with is, we work on such a tight margin. These programs are very important, but everything you add takes time. Everything you add takes resources. And so trying to manage that within the tight margins that we have has not been optimal. We aren't where we would like to be for some of these programs, but part of that is just how do you implement these in ways that are efficient and sustainable with the resources you currently have. I think Chief Hurley mentioned that Lacey Fire has a dedicated health and safety officer. And I don't know what that really means, but just to have someone that has the margin to focus on this for a period of time would be incredible. I mean, that's we do this with people that are passionate about that, but they do it on above and beyond their normal duties, and they add and they bring a lot of resources. But just like Chief said, if you send someone to training, someone else has to come in on overtime, and that's impactful. And so I guess I would just want you to understand, I'm asking you to recognize we are light years ahead of where we were. We're not where we would like to be. And these programs are incredibly valuable, especially in this day and age. You have a workforce that is different, and their dedication is different. It's not better or worse, it's just different to the profession. And if we can support them, if we can help them maintain operational status and maintain a balanced life, you're going to have an employee that is dedicated to the city, to the police department, to the community on a whole different level than you did in the past. And I think that's there is no loss of investment if we can focus it in the right areas.
Well said, Commander Mason. If you could just give my update to the rest of council and say what you said, that would be much appreciated. That really puts it in perspective for both fire and police. So thank you. Anything else, Peter and Angela, regarding this topic?
No, just excellent briefing. Thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you. I did have another question, but it just left. So I will circle back. Thank you for the presentation, and we look forward to the update. And then we also look forward to the next budget presentation where we will see these items so we can support you better moving forward. Thank you all. Next on the agenda, it says additional items. Does anyone have additional items? We can start with fire and police if they're topics that you'd like us to, that you want us to know about. I was looking at the agenda schedule, and I see for August, we don't have anything on there right now, August 8th. But we do have pending crisis response pilot project update from Thurston County Prosecutor's Office. For September 12th, I see that we have the Thurston County Prosecutor Blake update with our City Attorney Karen Kirkpatrick. Is there anything missing? Like I'd sent an email to some Tumwater peeps regarding the youth council that Peter and I had a session at the Association of Washington Cities, right? And Thurston Thrives is talking about a youth council. Thurston County Opioid Response Task Force is talking about a youth council. I've talked to some Tumwater school board members, right, about our relationship, council and the school board, and ways to collaborate and connect moving forward with their new superintendent. So I'm wondering, I know Peter's for having a discussion, and I know on our budgets, we got in the budget regarding a youth council like study or discussion, right? How do we link that with the Tumwater Youth Program, Tumwater Hopes? So Angela, are you in support of a youth council or having a discussion or a study of what that could look like in Tumwater?
100%.
Okay, so that's one of my additional items, is where does that fit in, and where does that fit in with everything else that we're doing? Angela and Peter, have there been things coming up with your other council assignments that could link back to public health and safety that you would like to talk about? And you don't have to answer now, but keep thinking about that and maybe do a follow-up email to Administrator Parks or Chief Hurley, Chief Wicks is out to August, or Commander Mason. If things are coming up in your committee assignments that link back to our public health and safety, it would be great to like get those ideas. So not that we can fill our agendas, but really continuing that coordination and collaboration effort. Angela.
Yeah. Since we have a few minutes, just what you just mentioned about the new superintendent and Tumwater Hopes, just trying to reignite that and just reintroduce it to the community. So I had sent an email to the superintendent. Of course, our city administrator was involved. And just to reintroduce that program to him, because there's been a little lag. So, but you mentioned that. I would like that conversation also. Yeah.
Perfect. Peter, if anything comes to mind when you're randomly doing something else, just follow up with an email, a text, or a phone call, or pigeon carrier, whatever works best for you. I love meetings like this. We've learned something new. Tumwater is modeling the way. And this is things that I didn't know that they were working on an app. I didn't know police had an app. I think these are the elements and stories when in the past, Angela's talked about like our social media connections, right? How are we sharing the story? Some remember a last ballot proposition that did not go well. I think these are examples of why we're doing what we're doing and why we need support and what that support looks like. So I would love to share these examples and these stories of how Tumwater are doing things differently. And, you know, a lot of times we say it's just different in Tumwater. Tumwater has a different culture, and this epitomizes that, right? That we do care, right? That acronym people, that we believe in people. This is a perfect example of why we do what we do. And I think that's enough rambling from me. Are there any additional items before we have free time? Seeing everyone say Leetta end this meeting. Meeting adjourned at 8:37. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.